It has been announced and we know all the details about the Pat McGrath holiday collection, Bijoux Brilliance. And this time it's different. Stay tuned for my top 3 picks. This time with the holiday collection, we finally have cool tones and more original colors. How exciting, right? Let's see all the items. It's a vast collection. It's made up of 2 bigger palettes that are a mixture of eyeshadows, 9 pan this time, plus 2 blushes. And then we have face palettes with a trio, bronzer, blush, and highlight. Finally 4 Quints and also 3 mascaras. So the mascaras I believe are the same, exactly the same as last year, and I will skip them like last year. I don't know why she reproposed them again. I haven't seen them around, I don't see them as a trend, so not for me. Let's focus on the big palettes. They're called Mothership Duo. They switch to a more curated 9-pan set of eyeshadows. Then we have a lighter, more cool toned palette. The palette is called Starstruck Splendor, and we have an Nymphette that is a repromote. Personally is not a blush that I like, so much that I decluttered mine. I don't like the shimmery blushes from Pat. I don't like the golden sheen. I prefer to calibrate mine with a highlighter if I want, and just get a matte blush. The other blush is Coral Cosmos, and that seems promising. It seems a pretty coral brush, but to be honest, I don't like the mixture of eyeshadows and blushes. I much prefer the idea of last year when we had a face palette with 4 blushes. So the blushes, I like them, but I'm not fond of them. They're quite basic colors for blushes, for light skin. While I'm more attracted by this eyeshadow palette, I like that we have some cooler, more neutral tones. Dawn Divinity for sure, but also Forever Nude, more neutral, not orangey brown. So I like that. And then we have 5 shimmers and 2 greens. I would be interested in comparison of these greens with the Celestial Odyssey big palette that was released for holidays 2021. I still think I can reproduce this palette with what I have, but I like this palette. It's not a must-have for me. It's something that I would consider with a deep discount in the future. Next palette is Jewel Temptation, the warmer one. There's a blush that seems a lighter version of Desert Orchid called Desert Amber. And then there's the classic Paradise Venus that it's a favorite of many. For me, it's too dark. I like it, but this seems repetitive. The color story is cohesive at least. A bit skeptical about the true difference between Daring Desire and Midnight Cherry. I wish there was more variety between them. The other colors are something that I've seen already. I like it, but this is not my color story, so I will skip this for sure. This time we can recognize the palette thanks to the color of the ribbon printed on top. I like the diversification. Sometimes it's not the case with Pat. Then we have the trio, Blush, Bronze and Glow. A best-selling for me would be the lighter one, because it has the best-selling bronzer, Nude Honey, the most neutral bronzer. I like also the central blush called Naked Peony. It's a classic shade, very fresh looking. I like also the highlighter. However, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not into highlighters anymore. Just today I tried the palette by Pat from last year, and the highlighter is too strong. I don't like anymore that wet effect. I don't like these highlighters anymore. I would like to declutter my Nude Honey simply because it's not my favorite texture. And while the blushes are not my favorite as well, but still I can use them to prolong the lasting power of my favorite blushes as a base for my favorite blushes. When it comes to bronzers, I'm okay if my favorite bronzers fade away. My favorite texture for bronzers is hourglass-like, baked and lightweight. These by Pat are a different concept and are more velvety, richer in pigmentation, and very blendable. I may skip this trio, but my favorite one is the lightest one. And then we have Nirvana in Bloom, more warm tone with a darker highlighter. I like the blush here again. It's called Sunset Bloom. I hope not to end up purchasing these because of the blush. It's the only pan that I truly love in both the trios. And then we have the last trio called Supernova Siren. There's Burnished Honey. Again, it's quite yellowy looking, but I haven't tried these bronzers. The only bronzer that I own is Nude Honey. Then there's this rich magenta pink blush that is called Midnight Orchid, and then Solar Fantasy that it will again rock on darker skin. And finally, the star of the show for me are the Quints. There are 4 Quints, very smart. They know that we wanted them because they are the most interesting formula, the most innovative one. Quints have appeared in the Pat McGrath offer last year for last holidays. She has released since then 5 Quints, and I have 3 of them. And those are in a new formula that is quite trendy right now. The one without the metallic pen, more emollient, like a cream to powder. This is a great formula. So this in particular is the Bronze Bliss eyeshadow palette. It's still available for purchase. It's quite impactful. I personally like the most this one, that it's not a bright metallic like this eyeshadow. This palette, the Bronze Bliss one from last holidays, is the one that I've used the most. The other 2, were from the Star Wars collection. I expected to use them more than I did in reality. The drawback of these palettes is that it's not possible to mix and match, to depot these shades, because they are without the pen. So it's not possible to pick up the pens and rearrange the colors in a way that would be much more useful for me. This is not my favorite formula, but it's quite good, and for that reason I may consider the new palettes. Bronze Ecstasy. Finally, we get cooler tones. They understood that we want cooler, more neutral tones. I'm a sucker for bronze shades with the hint of green, and there's the greenish quality in this bronze shade. I may pick, but this is not my favorite color combo. My favorite one is Lunar Nightshade, and it's because of Neptunian Orchid that seems very complex. It has shimmers with different colors. And also Noir Nebula is promising because again I see copper shimmer in it. This will sold out. I think it will be the first one to sold out, and I would buy it sooner than later. It may be the only item I would purchase as soon as it is released. I love the concept of this. It's a great choice. Then we have Sunset Romance, that is the most conservative. Those are the usual tones we are all used for years right now. I think you may have these shades already. Bordeaux Bliss is another top pick. It's pink, but it's a sexy pink. I like Ruby Noir. There are those blackened shades. Also Naked Sunset, I think is very classy. I like all these shades. So what are my top picks? I will start from 3rd position towards the 1st. At 3rd position is the Quint in Bronze Ecstasy. This is conservative but with a twist. That is actually my type of style. At the 2nd place, there's another Quint that is Bordeaux Bliss. This is romantic but with grunginess because of the black and purple. A classic pink, very romantic and girly. I like it. At the 1st position, there's another Quint that is Lunar Nightshade. This is the most original one. There are sets, multiple sets. They allow you to buy 2 of the Quints or all 4 of them with a small discount. I may go maybe for a duo or maybe all 4 of them. But there's also a honorable mention, that is the palette Starstruck Splendor. This palette actually seems a combo of the Celestial Odyssey and the matte palette from the Love collection. Comfort zone with a twist. So I may consider it in future with a discount. So all in all, I think I will pick a few Quints, maybe 2 or all 4 of them as soon as they are released. That is quite rare of me because I I tend to wait when it comes to Pat, but this time I'm excited. I'm curious to know what you think about it. What are your top picks? Let me know in the comments, and see you next time. Bye bye.